Myles Garrett is breaking records on defense, putting together one of the most dominant seasons in franchise history. But as Garrett shines, the rest of the Cleveland Browns crumble around him, a paradox that speaks volumes about the team's internal dysfunction. Despite such historic individual performances, the Browns' offense remains stagnant, dragged down by poor coaching decisions and unresolved leadership conflicts.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And at the heart of that dysfunction is the continued sidelining of Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback with the talent and composure to turn things around, but who remains benched. Under Kevin Stefanski's rigid rule, Garrett's brilliance only highlights how much potential is being wasted elsewhere. Cleveland isn't short on talent, it's short on courage. The refusal to play Sanders isn't just a tactical mistake, it's a symptom of an organization more committed to protecting egos than winning games. Until Stefanski and the Browns confront that truth, even generational performances like Garrett's won't be enough to change the franchise's trajectory. Greatness is being ignored, and it's not on the field, it's on the sideline. Kevin Stefanski has backed himself into a corner, and now he's dragging the entire Cleveland Browns organization down with him. At 2-6, with a defense playing at a historic level, and an offense that looks completely lost, the Browns are squandering a rare opportunity. This isn't about injuries. This isn't about a rebuilding year. This is about a head coach so wrapped up in preserving his power structure that he's refusing to put the best player on the field. And that player is Shedeur Sanders. The fact that we're still having this conversation in November is unreal. Sanders has been waiting on the sidelines while the offense has put up one lifeless performance after another. The same repetitive game plans, the same struggling quarterback, the same empty post-game explanations from Stefanski. The Browns' season isn't falling apart because of bad luck. It's unraveling because of leadership ego. And at the center of it all is Stefanski's refusal to make the one move that could spark change, starting Shedeur Sanders. It's not that Sanders hasn't earned it. Yes, he's shown leadership. He's shown professionalism. He's handled being benched without drama. He's reportedly been sharp in practices and ready to contribute. The Browns just haven't let him. Instead, the organization has leaned into the same failing formula. The same quarterback in Dillon Gabriel, who continues to underperform. And there's reason to believe that Stefanski's loyalty to Gabriel may not be purely football-related. Whispers of agency ties and behind-the-scenes loyalties have created a cloud over this situation, one that's impossible to ignore when the on-field product is this bad. It's not just a personnel issue anymore, it's a cultural one. The Browns have long suffered from organizational dysfunction, but this situation feels especially self-inflicted. Stefanski's coaching style has always leaned conservative, but this year it's crossed the line from calculated to fearful. He relinquished play-calling duties to Tommy Rees, which on the surface looked like a move toward accountability. But nothing changed. Rees is calling plays with one hand tied behind his back, forced to scheme around a quarterback who isn't delivering. It was a superficial change. A gesture. Nothing more. MG game. And while Rees calls the plays, Stefanski still makes the quarterback decisions. That's where the real power lies. That's where the real damage is being done. By refusing to give Sanders a shot, Stefanski isn't just stalling offensive progress. He's showing the entire locker room that performance doesn't matter as much as politics. That loyalty to his guy outweighs giving the team its best chance to win. That's how you lose players. That's how you lose the room. You've got a defensive unit setting franchise records. Myles Garrett is having a season that should be front-page news every week. The defensive scheme is working. The players are executing. And all of it is being wasted because the offense can't stay on the field. It's a classic NFL tragedy. Elite defense, incompetent offense, and a coaching staff that refuses to acknowledge the obvious. And let's not pretend this is just about Gabriel versus Sanders. It's about what each of them represents. Gabriel is the safe choice, the one Stefanski has publicly committed to, the one whose struggles Stefanski continues to excuse. Sanders, on the other hand, represents change, uncertainty, potential, and most of all, accountability. Starting Sanders means admitting that what's been happening hasn't worked. That 2 months of sticking with Gabriel was a mistake. That Stefanski's vision for this team has failed. That's the wall Stefanski refuses to climb down from. And while he clings to control, the fan base is watching this mess unfold with growing disgust. This isn't just about losing. It's about wasting. Wasting talent. Wasting time. Wasting a defense that could carry this team to the postseason if it had even a mediocre offense to support it. Fans see it. Media sees it. Analysts see it. Everyone except the guy with the headset. And then there's the bigger picture, the league-wide discomfort with the Sanders name. Let's not pretend this isn't part of the problem. The NFL has a long, ugly history of gatekeeping, of punishing players who show confidence before they've earned it, especially if they don't come from the right background or the right image. Shedeur Sanders comes in with star power, with swagger, with the legacy of his father, Dion. And that makes some people nervous. His presence threatens to shift attention, shift narrative, shift power. And that's the exact thing this league resists. Sanders wasn't passed over in the draft because of his ability, he was passed over because of how much shine he brought with him. And now Cleveland is continuing that pattern, hiding behind timing and development while the season burns. But the Browns don't have time. They don't have the luxury to slow play this anymore. The record is bad. The offense is worse. The coaching credibility is gone. At this point, not starting Sanders isn't just stubborn, it's sabotage. And the longer this goes on, the more irreversible the damage becomes. You lose the fan base. You lose the locker room. And maybe worst of all, you risk losing the player himself. Because how long can Shedeur Sanders sit on the bench watching this team flounder before he starts to question the franchise that drafted him? This isn't just a missed opportunity, it's a warning sign. Every week, Stefanski doubles down. Every week, the offense stumbles. And every week, Sanders is left to wait, to watch, to wonder if the team he's supposed to lead will ever trust him enough to let him do his job. And what happens if Stefanski finally makes the switch, after the season is already lost? What does that say about leadership? About vision? About the organization's ability to adapt under pressure? This isn't a quarterback controversy anymore. It's a credibility crisis. If Shedeur Sanders isn't starting next week, the Browns are officially admitting that politics matter more than progress. That loyalty matters more than leadership. That they'd rather stick with the status quo than risk being proven wrong. And if that's the case, then this team doesn't just need a new quarterback. It needs a new head coach. Because once ego becomes more important than wins, the job is already lost. If you're done watching a team this talented fall apart because of one man's refusal to change, say something. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Stefanski still be leading this team? Should Sanders have been starting 5 weeks ago? Are the Browns wasting a rare shot at relevance just to protect a narrative? Like this if you're tired of seeing politics take precedence over performance. Share this with the Browns fans in your life who deserve better than this. And subscribe because as long as this disaster keeps unfolding, we're going to keep breaking it down. Week after week. Snap after snap. Until someone in Cleveland finally wakes up. At this point, it's not even controversial. It's a slow-moving football tragedy. The Cleveland Browns are staring directly at the one decision that could shift their entire season, and instead of grabbing it with both hands, they're letting it rot on the bench. Shedeur Sanders isn't just being overlooked, he's being outright buried, all in the name of control, comfort, and an outdated coaching philosophy that prioritizes familiarity over firepower. Let's stop pretending this is about developing the rookie. That ship sailed the minute the Browns fell to 2-6. Development isn't what's happening here. Suppression is. This isn't some strategic timeline. It's a calculated freeze-out, orchestrated by Kevin Stefanski, who seems more interested in preserving his own hierarchy than preserving the season. And that's the part that burns. Because Shedeur Sanders is right there. He's the obvious choice. A quarterback with pedigree, intelligence, presence, and leadership. A player who's been praised for his readiness, his work ethic, and his ability to galvanize a locker room. He's not raw. He's not overwhelmed. He's not some project who needs another year holding a clipboard. He's ready. But in Cleveland? Ready doesn't matter. Politics do. The longer this saga drags on, the more obvious it becomes that Stefanski's reluctance has little to do with X's and O's. It's ego. It's protection. It's a fear of letting go of the narrative he crafted around Dillon Gabriel. Because the second Sanders steps onto the field and performs, even marginally better than Gabriel, the whole narrative collapses. The "we're building something" excuse, the "we believe in our guy" defense, the "we're sticking to the plan" mantra? Gone. Replaced by the truth, this coaching staff bet on the wrong quarterback and refused to admit it. And they're still refusing even as the walls close in. The Browns' offense isn't just bad, it's stale, predictable, emotionless. There's no urgency, no rhythm, no spark, and no identity. And the person who's been given the responsibility to lead it week after week, is a quarterback who hasn't proven he can execute under pressure, move the chains, or elevate the players around him. Meanwhile, the Browns' defense is delivering week after week. Myles Garrett is playing like a man possessed. The secondary is locking people down. The defensive line is applying relentless pressure. They are giving this team chances, over and over again. But the offense is wasting every single one. You know what the most dangerous thing in football is? A divided locker room. And if Stefanski hasn't lost it yet, he's dangerously close. Because nothing splits a team faster than watching talent go unused. When players see that performance isn't rewarded and that politics outrank production, the whole structure cracks. And once those cracks form, it's over. You can't keep selling team first when you're benching the guy who could actually help the team. And it's not like fans aren't paying attention. They are. Closely. Browns fans aren't stupid. They've seen enough dysfunction to know when a coach is covering for something. This isn't about waiting for the right time, it's about waiting so long that the right time passes you by. And right now, Stefanski is on the verge of missing everything. The season, the locker room, the trust of a city that's already running out of patience. Let's not forget how we got here. Shedeur Sanders was undervalued in the draft for reasons that had nothing to do with football. Concerns about his last name. Concerns about his confidence. Concerns about his image. Teams didn't want to deal with the spotlight. They didn't want to manage the narrative. So they passed. Cleveland didn't. They took him. They brought him in. They sold fans on the idea of a new era. And now they're squandering it out of fear that he might actually live up to the hype. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The league is afraid of players like Sanders. Players who don't beg for permission to lead. Players who understand the spotlight. Players who were raised to compete, to carry pressure, to own the moment. And it's not just Stefanski. It's league-wide. But in Cleveland, that fear has calcified into paralysis. And it's dragging the franchise down with it. Let's talk about optics. Because even if Stefanski somehow convinces himself that Sanders isn't ready, he has to be aware of how this looks. The coach is sticking with a quarterback that no one believes in anymore, at the expense of someone who has every tangible and intangible trait you want in a modern QB. From the outside, it looks like sabotage. Because no coach in their right mind should be watching these offensive performances and thinking, yes, let's keep this going. No coach should be fielding one of the league's most underwhelming offenses and not making a change. Especially when the guy you're benching isn't just a rookie with potential. He's the only viable path forward. If Stefanski won't make the switch now, when will he? After they're 2-9? When the locker room's already lost? When the stands are half empty and the boos drown out the play calls? At what point does ego give way to reason? Because make no mistake, if Shedeur Sanders comes in later and plays well, this entire coaching regime will be finished. Because it'll be too late. The season will be dead. And the story won't be about his breakout, it'll be about the weeks he was kept out of the spotlight while the team burned. The question that will haunt this franchise won't be, can Sanders lead us? It'll be, why didn't they let him sooner? And if he doesn't come in? If the Browns ride this out to a 4-win season with a wasted defense and a coach who never blinked? Then it's even worse. Because they'll have proven that their priorities were never about winning. They were about control. And that is the real crisis. This isn't just a quarterback change, it's a cultural reckoning. It's about whether the Browns are willing to evolve, to take risks, to bet on their talent. Or whether they'll keep clinging to outdated thinking, protect their internal alliances, and tell the fans to be patient while nothing changes. Kevin Stefanski has a decision to make. And so does the front office. Because one way or another, this situation will define the season. Either the Browns course correct, start Sanders and salvage what's left, or they go down with a coach who chose control over common sense. And if they don't act, they're going to lose more than games. They're going to lose the fan base, the locker room, the momentum they've spent years trying to build. At this point, the only thing more predictable than the Browns' offense is Kevin Stefanski doubling down on the same decision that's clearly not working. It's almost like watching someone drive full speed toward a cliff while insisting they know a shortcut. Every week brings another missed opportunity, another wasted performance from the defense, and another awkward post-game explanation that dodges the only question that matters. Why isn't Shedeur Sanders playing? Because let's be brutally honest, this isn't about strategy anymore. This is about pride. This is about power. And more than anything, this is about a head coach who would rather go down with his narrative than admit the obvious. He bet on the wrong guy, and now the whole franchise is paying the price. The Browns' offense is dead on arrival. There's no rhythm, no momentum, no spark. Dylan Gabriel has been handed the keys to the kingdom and driven it directly into the ground. Game after game he's failed to move the chains, failed to capitalize on short fields, and failed to prove he deserves to be starting in the NFL. And yet there he is, starting again. Week after week. And over there? On the sidelines? Stuck in quarterback purgatory? Shedeur Sanders, a player who has everything this team lacks. Presence, leadership, awareness, pocket control, and the rare kind of football IQ that makes teammates want to rally around you. But instead of being given a shot, he's been reduced to a symbol of what could have been. He's not a rookie project. He's a ready-now NFL-caliber quarterback whose talent was ignored in the draft not because of a lack of ability, but because of a last name that scared the league's most insecure executives. And now that same fear is paralyzing the Browns. There's no clearer example of organizational ego than what's happening right now in Cleveland. Stefanski's refusal to start Sanders, despite all evidence, all logic, and all momentum pointing in that direction, isn't about football anymore. It's about control. About not wanting to be proven wrong. About not wanting the guy he sidelined to show up and save the season. Because what happens if Sanders starts and succeeds? That's the nightmare scenario for Stefanski. That means every loss up to this point was avoidable. That means he actively chose failure for the sake of comfort. That means his system, his judgment, his entire framework, collapses under the weight of one rookie start. So he stalls. He spins. He makes changes that look like solutions. Handing over play calling to Tommy Rees, tweaking the offensive line, shifting the blame onto injuries. But none of that matters when the biggest problem is standing on the sideline holding a clipboard. And let's not kid ourselves, the locker room sees it. The defense sees it. The fans definitely see it. The only one pretending not to is the man clinging to a headset and a hollow plan. What's worse is that this moment, this exact point in the season, was the last off-ramp. The last realistic chance to shake things up and try to salvage what's left. But instead, Stefanski chose to double down again, sending out the same offense with the same broken execution and the same exhausted excuses. And here's the kicker, it didn't have to be this way. This team has a defense playing lights out. They have Pro Bowl talent across the field. They've got fans who still show up, still scream their lungs out, still believe despite every reason not to. But belief fades fast when it's constantly insulted by leadership that refuses to evolve. And right now that's what's happening. This isn't cautious leadership, it's arrogant inertia. A refusal to adapt. A commitment to pride over performance. Even worse, it's setting a precedent. When a coach makes it clear that loyalty and politics matter more than merit, it trickles down. It changes how players approach the game. It changes how hard they fight, how much they trust, how long they stay. Because nothing kills a culture faster than watching the wrong people get rewarded while the right ones wait in silence. It's been silent. Professional. Focused. Not a single media blow-up. Not a single leak. Just preparation. That's leadership. That's maturity. That's what this team needs. And it's being ignored. How many more games does Stefanski get to waste before someone intervenes? The front office, ownership, someone has to step in and say enough is enough. Because the longer they let this continue, the harder it becomes to justify anything about the direction this team is heading. This isn't development. It's denial. Sanders is being held back and everyone knows it. And let's not overlook what message this sends to the next wave of draft picks. If you're a talented, confident, high IQ quarterback entering the NFL, why? Would you want to land in Cleveland if this is how they handle opportunity? If this is how they punish potential? The Browns have been here before. Stuck in limbo. Promising young players stuck in a broken system. Veterans getting wasted in losing seasons. Fans promise change only to get more of the same. But this one stings more because the solution is already on the roster. Sanders isn't a mystery. He's a known quantity. A leader. A playmaker. Someone who could actually give the Browns a chance to compete. And yet he sits. What? Because Kevin Stefanski would rather lose on his terms than win with someone else's vision. New match, and if that isn't the most Cleveland thing ever, I don't know what is. So what now? Do they limp through the rest of the season with Gabriel, hoping for a miracle that clearly isn't coming? Do they wait until they're officially eliminated from playoff contention to throw Sanders into the fire just to say they tried? Or do they finally break the cycle, admit the mistake, and give the team a fighting chance? It's not just a decision. It's a statement. Fans, starting Shedeur Sanders wouldn't just be a personnel move. It would be a signal to the locker room, to the fans, to the league, we're done playing scared. We're ready to compete. But if that moment never comes and the Browns go down this road until the bitter end, then they deserve every bit of the criticism coming their way. Because this isn't about hindsight. It's not about what ifs. It's about what's right in front of them. And they're ignoring it. Week after week, loss after loss, the Browns are becoming a case study in how fear of being wrong can become more dangerous than being wrong in the first place. If you're watching this meltdown and asking yourself how many more Sundays it'll take for someone to wake up, you're not alone. If you're a Browns fan who's tired of watching this defense carry the weight of a one-dimensional offense, leave a comment. If you believe Shedeur Sanders should have been starting 3 games ago, or better yet from the beginning, like this and let the front office know fans aren't fooled. And if you're sticking around for what happens next, hit that subscribe button. Because whether Stefanski makes the move or rides this dysfunction all the way to the unemployment line, we'll be right here, breaking it down, calling it out, and waiting, just like Sanders, for the Browns to finally make the right decision.